Send in the red shirts.
All right, so I'll say that this was a marked improvement above the last 3 episodes. That's not saying much. This was basically a slightly better version of the story they told in Star Trek Insurrection, but with less likable characters. For the most part, I know Saru and Burnham are having this out of the blue best friend thing going on that came out of nowhere. She's even holding his hand in this episode. But for the most part, this crew just, they don't seem to like each other that well. Or they don't seem to like each other, and they don't follow command structure, which is very important in Starfleet protocol. The scene with Culber and Stamets, I don't know what Culber's going, I know Culber's going through some sort of recovery process, but there seems to be some friction there out of nowhere. Stamets touches his shoulder and he just pulls back, and I'm not sure. Maybe they're going to develop that. I mean, payoffs are not really big with these writers, but maybe they'll develop that. But it just seemed odd, and it seemed even more odd that Stamets didn't notice Culber's standoffishness. That lack of trust or lack of command structure, it's most notable in all the scenes that deal with Pike. You have a scene with Pike where he's in conference with Ash and Michael, and he makes a suggestion, and Ash just kind of just rides him off or just blows him off completely.
My first officer. What are the odds?
It certainly isn't random.
Discovery's taken a serious interest in the Red Angel. Could be it's returning the favor.
That's elite. Commander Saru, are there angels of any sort in Topian culture?
Oh, on Kaminar.
Well, they must have seen the signal, too.
Maybe they wouldn't mind an offer to share information.
Depending on how they're approached.
Well, let's knock on the front door and see if they answer.
And then what? Just ask nicely.
I mean, I know Ash is Section 31 now, and he's a liaison. He's not a member of the crew. But you better believe, if someone was assigned to the Enterprise when Kirk was in command, or to DS9 when Sisko was in command, or Kira was taking care of running stuff, or if they were assigned to Voyager when Janeway was there, or definitely Enterprise E with Picard, they would have snapped him back in a heartbeat. They would have been like, I know you're a liaison, but this is my ship, mister. And you will show me the respect that I am due as the captain of this vessel. Pike takes a long time to kind of suggest to Saru that he needs to get the hell out of the captain's chair. There's a scene where Burnham and Tilly are talking about how to communicate to the Kelpians that the whole Vahari thing is a lie. And Tilly comes up with the idea, or Michael comes up with the idea, that they can use the information from the sphere that they got a couple of episodes ago. And the captain's just sitting there in the background, and Tilly just goes off and does it without getting the captain's permission. The scene where Saru totally is insubordinate to Captain Pike, where he leaves his station and starts to square off with Pike. Totally out of line. And what does Pike do? He just stands there and looks at him. I'm not really feeling this captain at all right now. In my favorite scene of the episode, when Discovery confronts the Ba'ul and they have that conversation through the view screen, prior to that conversation, Pike tells Saru, you should stay out of this conversation. And Saru butts his nose in, and Pike just stands there and lets them talk and talk and talk. That's because Saru has some dialogue that had to be said to move the plot along. It seems that rules and commands just don't really have much weight with this crew, because just in that one scene alone, there were so many infractions of command structure. And I gotta say, Pike is really horrible at maintaining some sort of diplomacy, or what's the word, some structure amongst his bridge crew. They seem to just all be autonomous and do whatever they want to do. The end justifies the means, it seems like. But I did mention my favorite scene of the episode, and that was the scene where Saru speaks out of turn when the Ba'ul are communicating with the Discovery. That felt like Trek to me. As a matter of fact, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Best of Both Worlds, with the way the voice, with all the bass coming over the speakers and everything. That felt very much like Trek to me. It was a welcome. It was welcome. It was like, okay, I know, until Saru screws it all up and starts disobeying his captain. This was an exciting episode, I'll give it that. And I'll also say there were some moments of introspection. I'm thinking mainly of the scene where Saru and Michael beam down to Kaminar. But that's another thing. These writers really need to get a quick education on how the Prime Directive works. So there's a conversation that they have where on the bridge, it's the first conversation where Saru is insubordinate to Pike. And Pike, for whatever reason, says, Michael, since you're a xenoanthrobiologist, you should go down there and talk to the Kelpians, which makes no sense. And Saru rightfully says, well, Captain, maybe I should be the one to go since I know them and I can blend in more. And then what happens? For some reason, Michael beams down with Saru. Why? Why? This is the second time the Discovery has come upon a society and where Prime Directive, or what do they call it, General Order 1, should come into play, and they just throw it out the window. Why does Michael beam down with Saru? There's no point to that. And I watched that scene intently. Nothing happens in that scene where Michael needed to be there. Beyond that, again, not only do they screw up first contact, well, not first contact, well, yeah, first contact. This would be first contact for Saru's sister and the populace of Kaminar, which we also are supposed to believe that planet is only habitated by 2 different species. Okay. That being the Baul and the Kelpians. But just like in the episode New Eden, where Pike gives technology to the society, here we've got Saru explaining communicators. Right, I got that confused because that's another question. Explaining translators, which I don't know when translators were ever merged with communicators. I've never seen that before. Not saying it's not a good idea, but it's not canon. And, well, I guess I have to let that go because we are aware that they're not really following Trek canon. So, okay, I gotta let that go. Just one of many things I have to let go. Here are a couple other things that I guess I just have to let go, or I guess you could consider them nitpicks, but as I am a Trek fan from 1982, and I like Trek because of the quasi-science, the pseudoscience, it's kind of a stretch for me to think that there's a species that is not aware of its own physiognomy. The writers want me to believe that the Kelpians, who were at one time the predator species, have never experienced Vihari, and they never knew that they evolve. Oh, that's such a horrible word to use, evolve. It's like saying humans, when they go through puberty, they evolve. So we're supposed to believe that they never realize that their ganglia fall off and they, for want of a better term, evolve. That's never happened. And here's another question. If you are dealing with a species, the Baul, let's say you're Kelpian and you're dealing with a species, the Baul, and the writers have it where the Kelpians have the threat ganglia because of the predator species, the Baul, it doesn't make any sense if the predator species basically has you believing that you should voluntarily go sit in a circle around a pole and be drawn up into a light. So what's the need for the threat ganglia? Usually you have a sense of threat so that you can run, fight or flight, run. So it doesn't make any sense that they would believe that, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. We have these ganglia because we are subject to a predator species, which we voluntarily sacrifice ourselves to. It really is stupid. And the way they kind of just haphazardly reveal what becomes of the ganglia, they don't even make mention of it. We just see it happen quickly. So if you blinked your eyes, you missed it. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Only in the Discovery writer's room do they have it where they want us to believe all of these things, and they also want us to believe that Saru develops these razor-sharp needles and doesn't even remark about it. He doesn't even say, oh, that's what happens. That's cool. No, don't even say that. Oh, and also, again with the Deus Ex Machina writing, they've got Saru pinned against the wall with his neck and his hands. How do we get him out of this? Oh, he has super strength. Yeah, that'll work. He has super strength out of nowhere. Not only does he have super strength, And he is so jaded already by this new evolution of these spikes that come out of the back of his neck. He also is apparently a hell of an engineer. I don't know why they need Jet Reno when you've got Saru, who can take a piece of broken Baul drone, whatever that thing was, and put it together so that it creates a communicator that can speak to the Discovery. Boy, I got to tell you, boy, the firewalls in the Discovery are pretty damn weak. Not only that, but he breaks open a panel in the floor and he builds something else that somehow manages to spread the sphere's information about the Kelpians evolving and makes them evolve. He manages to do that by smashing a panel and putting in some cone or rod, whatever, into the floor. Writers, dude, really? Come on now. You make a paycheck. You should really try to earn it. Now, here's where I know I'm going to get some hate mail because I dare to think. See, we as human beings, we've evolved so that we have things like the precision grip. We can grab things. That led to us being able to make tools, the wheel, rudimentary tools as we evolved into the upright apes that we are. As a result of that, we design things that are ergonomically attractive to our physiognomy, to our bodies, to our hands, to the precision grip. I mean, that's just science. We have levers, handles, pulleys, things that we can grip. See where I'm going with that? So when I see this compound that Saru and his sister, I forget her name, Saren, I forget her name, when they're trapped in, and when I see the spaceships or the starships that the Baul deploy in an attempt to threaten the Discovery, and then when I see the Baul, when they reveal the Baul, it makes zero sense. So you've got this liquid-based gooey creature with these long fingers and these slimy appendages. But we're supposed to believe that this creature, who apparently lives in liquid, designed those ships and designed that compound. I know I'm cursed with being a Trek fan, and I'm cursed with liking science and pseudoscience of Trek. I just wish the writers had that same devotion to science that I do, or that same devotion to intellectual curiosity. What I mean by intellectual curiosity is that you're not just writing things that to get you from point A to point Z. You're thinking of clever things that have a scientific note about them. I mean, the Baul that we see in this episode, it looked like it wasn't willing or able to leave that tank. So how did they create the things that we see? These aren't meant to be trick questions or me trying to just complain for no reason. Like I said, I'm a Trek fan, and this is just me saying, why don't the writers take 5 seconds and think about these things? And you know what? I think I just hit on it. It was either something that the guys at Midnight's Edge said or Random Mecha said, and it was that they need these moments for the cell phone generation, for the people who, while they're watching TV, they're multitasking and they're looking down at their phones, and there has to be a loud flash or a loud noise for them to look up. And then when they look up, they see this cool looking almost xenomorph from Alien ripoff with the slime and the goo and the black and this and that, looking a lot like Armus from Skin of Evil. And that's what gets them engaged once again. One other major thing I want to say, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I don't know if it's, well, I was going to say, I don't know if it's me, and I know some out there are going to say, yeah, it's you. No, fine. But Michael Burnham is becoming less and less of an interesting character to me. I'm finding her less interesting. As a matter of fact, this episode wasn't really through her perspective, and that didn't bother me at all. Matter of fact, I'm far more interested in learning more about Owosukun, Detmer, Bryce, Reese. Hey, I can say their names now. I got to give the show that. I can say their names now. Ariam. She's probably one of the characters. I really hope they do a bottle episode about her and let Michael just sit one out. Yeah, I'm not really feeling Michael that much anymore, mainly because the way she's written. And I have to say, like I said in the last episode, the way Martin Green is acting with her, or her acting with it. It's just not moving me anymore. I also noticed a couple of TNG sound effects when they were on the bridge and engaging, was it photon torpedoes or warming up the phasers, as Pike said. I could have sworn I heard some TNG sound effects peppered throughout the bridge. So that was pretty cool, even though it's, again, out of time. But the last thing I want to say is don't do the VO anymore. Stop with the VO. It's like this pseudo-philosophical crap that I just don't like. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to say this episode was a pleasant surprise. Do I want to go that strong with it? Given the last 3 episodes, this episode was welcome. I'll put it that way. I didn't like Ash's treatment of the captain. I don't like the insubordination of the crew. Pike needs to straighten up his bridge, get that in order. Everything else, I have to judge on a bell curve or a curve, whatever that, on a curve, because it's clear to me that the writing is always going to be somewhat flawed on this series, so I got to take what I can get. This episode explained a lot of things. The pacing was slow to fast, which is appreciated. Like I said, the scene with Saru and Michael on the beach of Kaminar was that nice moment where he meets his sister again. That was a nice breathable moment. They took time to establish some stuff. I liked that. So I want to give this one a pass. And if I can just get this, as flawed as some of it was and as horrible as some of the science was, if I can just get this for the rest of the season or until the end of the first portion of the season, I guess I'll be happy. All right, there you have it. I'll see you again next week.